I had thought this morning about the gospel. It's hard not to think about it all the time when you know that your whole life is by the grace of God, including the rest and the peace you have in your life is by that grace, by the work of God to bring us the gospel, the reality of the gospel, not just as an idea. And I wanted to illustrate how one might see it by flipping it on its back or upside down, so to speak. Because in a nutshell, the gospel, the good news, is the answer to the bad news. The bad news was sin and death. The law was you sin, you die. And the answer, or the solution, which is the gospel, is the forgiveness of all those sins, so that you can, even though you sin later, after you've received the next step, which is life, you will not die. And that was what he accomplished. So I was thinking about it in terms of Adam was born alive to his God, or not born, but he was created alive. God breathed life into him. He was a grown man, and as God breathed the Holy Spirit of life into him, and then he died. And now we're all born dead to our God. Everyone is born in the image of Adam. We reflect Adam after he died. Adam was made to reflect his God until he died. Then he no longer reflected his God. So his children and every one of us since then has been born reflecting that. Not life, but death. And so we're born with the problem already existing, because we're all sinners and the wages of sin is death. And now God comes along, and even though we're born little babies separated from our God, he creates new life. You see that? It's like he made us alive by that work, kind of in reverse. And that shows, really, to me, it shows or illustrates how he does turn everything into something good. You can see how he does that to those that believe, to those that have faith in him. And even in his own life, he was born as the second Adam. He was obviously alive to his God, but there was no measure. God dwelt in him fully, the fullness of God, to do him, to please, or to do whatever God pleases, I should say, in that man, including knowing everything at one moment and then being just like a man the next and not knowing. Because it says that he found things out. So how else could he be disappointed? It said he knew the hearts of men. So he did not reveal himself completely to men. And I would just take that as, it doesn't feel good when you expose your heart to someone and they betray you. So he held back a little because he knew the hearts of men. He knew us inside and out. And yet he could be angry in the temple when he found out, so to speak, that they did not want him to heal a man with a crippled arm. And he was angry for the hardness of their hearts. So as I combined there, only God could know their actual thoughts. And as a man, it was like he was responding with this anger. How can you be concerned about what day of the week it is in relation to this man's healing, or the woman who is bent in half all those decades? So just a little quick illustration about the gospel, trying to understand it, because I got it a few years ago, and I'm always looking for different ways, or newer ways, better ways, more condensed ways to explain it. Obviously the best way is a long way, so you can listen to, like, say, Aaron Budgen's 12-part series. It's super in-depth. Well, that's forgiveness. But his one episode on the gospel is like 27 minutes long, and it breaks it down But I just want to put it out there as something you might be able to use to illustrate in a simple way. We once were alive, then we died. Now we're born dead and we're made alive through that reverse process that God, through His great grace and mercy, has granted us. In Jesus' name, amen.